Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today, and we are talking about Starfield once again. I made a video about the trademarks on Starfield, so most of you should be familiar with that, and if you are not, there will be a link to it in the description down below. But do keep in mind that we are speculating from now on that Bethesda Game Studios is working on this Starfield title, and if you want more information on that, like I said, the video will be linked down below. But anyway, I was revising some of the trademarks because that is the only information we have on the game, and I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything, and I actually did miss something. And so while looking at one of the trademarks, as you can see on screen here, I highlighted the most important bit, which we'll be talking about today, which is computer game software for use with online interactive games and entertainment services, namely providing online interactive computer games. And that basically means, to me personally, multiplayer, co-op perhaps, and I wanted to speculate about that a little bit. But before we go any further, multiplayer in a Bethesda Game Studios game, I'm sure most of you are laughing right now, and I would not blame you at all, because that's never been done before for Bethesda Game Studios, and everyone knows them for their single player games because that's all they've done, and they've done them quite well in my opinion. But here's an interesting article from Mashable. There's no multiplayer in Fallout 4, but some ideas were tossed around. Now hold your horses, this wasn't just Fallout 4. Here's some interesting quotes from Todd Howard. Believe it or not, every time we do a game, we design a multiplayer mode just to see what we would do, Fallout 4 director Todd Howard told Mashable at E3 2015. Howard and his team sit down and figure out what multiplayer might look like for the game they're working on. Pre-production is the best time to do that before anyone starts to do serious coding or content creation. Concepts and mechanics are written down on paper and discussed. Multiplayer is always in the conversation at Bethesda. And that to me is actually pretty exciting, that they've actually been considering multiplayer in multiple games for quite a while now. I'm sure part of the reason they decided not to with a Fallout game or an Elder Scrolls game is because of ESO, and also mainly because they have enough issues bug stomping with a Fallout game, for example, or an Elder Scrolls game, that multiplayer is a beast of its own because you have to handle servers, make sure all that's functioning on top of the base game itself, which I think might be a little bit more difficult to handle, especially for the smaller team that Bethesda Game Studios is, even after the expansion. The reason I showed this article is just so people know that multiplayer isn't out of the realm of possibility for Bethesda Game Studios. I know that we don't want it in our Fallout games or our Elder Scrolls games because those were established predominantly as single player games, but I think it would be alright if they started a brand new IP and did that as multiplayer and continued that as a multiplayer series, because then it wouldn't be breaking up what we love about the series, which is that isolation, that solo adventuring. So while we're talking about the possibility of a multiplayer Bethesda Game Studios game, in particular Starfield, I wanted to give my thoughts on what I personally would love to see from them in this title. Now when I think Starfield, I think a Mass Effect type game. I think story focused, but also I think of the open exploration that Bethesda Game Studios is known for, and I would love, if these rumors are true, to be able to explore the universe with 4 other friends. But the reason I mentioned story focused is because you see so many other space games, for example like No Man's Sky, which does look pretty cool, but it's all just about the exploration. There's really no story around it or anything, where I think Bethesda Game Studios games strike a good happy medium for me personally as a gamer between gameplay, story, exploration, where I like doing it all. And I would love a game like that to explore with my friends, 4-player co-op RPG primarily, because I would love to have the choices involved in the story that we make as a group while we're talking online, and you can customize your character with unique abilities to make you useful in your own particular way in that universe itself. I think that this is a very barren realm for games, the co-op RPG. The only one that comes to mind is like a Destiny or a Borderlands. There really aren't too many that have come out recently. It's been a lot of competitive multiplayer lately, such as a Doom, Overwatch, etc. And I love those games, but sometimes I like the cooperation, not the competitiveness in a video game, where it's like the online couch co-op type of experience, in a sense where you're just kicking back and playing a game with your friends. And I would love Bethesda Game Studios to try something like that if they are able to. I know it's a lot of resource and manpower to get this type of job done, but then again, you see how big No Man's Sky is and how small that team was. I think Bethesda Game Studios could get the job done. Also, speaking of the size of Bethesda Game Studio, if some of you were a part of what I like to call the original 30K, when we were following Bethesda's every single move before Fallout 4 was a thing, then you'll see here that the hiring page for Bethesda Game Studios is insane and more popular than it's ever been. So it's clear that they're recruiting for some type of new project. A lot of these hirings are for the Montreal studio, but some are also for the one in Maryland, meaning that they are overall expanding quite a bit for something big perhaps. And and I'm really looking forward to finding out down the line what Starfield is, but I nonetheless wanted to bring you guys this speculative video talking about whether or not Bethesda Game Studios might be working on a multiplayer title, and if so, what I personally would want to see in it. It's really not a matter of expectation. We don't know anything about this game. We don't even know if it's going to be Bethesda Game Studios working on it, although we do have a lot of information supporting that. Still, nonetheless, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments down below. Let me hear it, people. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook. The links are, as always, in the description down below. Check out sugarbomb.com, the place by Bethesda fans for Bethesda fans. Other than that, stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.